Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Hope you're all doing well. Tonight we're going to look at Funky Bitch from Alpine Valley 2010, and it's going to be a good time. This is a great vehicle to take a look at general jam kind of concepts, but especially bluesy stuff, because it's a blues, and there's just so much we can get out of studying a blues like this and looking at some of the motifs that Trey comes up with. As usual, I'll have kind of a rhythmic lens I want to look at things through, and I've got a few licks that I've tabbed out for you guys. I want to share those, one of which is going to be just the main kind of riff, like the opening licks that Trey gets into, then a couple kind of choice things, and then this one I thought we could use the track itself as kind of a vehicle to talk about some certain concepts, and then I'll kind of scan through the jam. It's not really a super long one. And a lot of the stuff that Trey's doing is, there are a couple kind of motifs that he's working out of. So I'm excited to share some of that with you guys. As always, as I'm going through, if something doesn't make sense, or if you have, something you want to share, chime in. If you've got a question or whatever else, I always love to hear where you guys are hanging from and viewing from. So let's get right into it here. As always, thank you to Rip for doing the track from Playing with the Band Jam Tracks. There's a link in the description. I've got the tabs for you guys. There's a link for that as well. In addition to the tabs I'm going to share, or the couple licks that I tabbed out, I should say, I've got a rhythmic displacement exercise that I want to share as well. So go over there, grab the track if you want to play along and apply some of these things. Some of these concepts would apply really well to Bathtub Gin. That's also a C. It's not really a blues, but it has some of that kind of vibe to it, and you can definitely apply some of the concepts. So let's get right into it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to share the track and play the first kind of lick. I'll share the tabs, talk you guys through it, and take it from there. So let me share this Slowdowner app, and here we go. Let's get into it. You guys will, I'm sure, recognize this riff. I'll probably play it, slow it down, and then show you how to play it. All right, so good. All right, let me get rid of that for a second, and shout out to Fishy Fish and Brendan. Brendan, extra shout out. I spoke with him this morning. He just joined the course, and glad to have you on board. Glad you made it, man. Really good talking to you and meeting you. And okay, so as you guys hear that first opening line that we all know and love so much, really take note. I'm going to play it again before I teach the part, but I'm going to slow it down and just listen to Trey's bends and his vibrato. Something that I've spoken quite a bit about in the past couple streams is the idea of taking a minor third and bending it up ever so slightly sharp. Like, I'm talking maybe 20 to 25%. And Yeah, man, really, really good hanging. So I'm gonna play it. Listen for the bends in the vibrato. There's it just kind of makes the note sing, especially when he holds the C. This is a C blues as well. Let me share that one more time. I'll play it at like 60% or something like that. Really listen for bends and vibrato, and then we'll get into how to play it. So here we go again. Let's go, yeah, like 60%. Again, this app is amazing. This, well, it's called the Amazing Slowdowner, but it literally is amazing. It's a lifesaver for me, learning stuff and transcribing. You can save loops, like if you see where I'm pointing the cursor, like I've got the couple examples, and just a great all-around tool to learn music. Anyway, here we go, 60%. Even right there, I got to pause it already. Do you guys hear those first notes are bent just a little sharp? So it's not just a straight minor third, but a little bit of major in there. One more time. Right on. All right, let's get into it here. Let me go close up, and I'm going to share the tabs with you guys here. So let me see here, get this all dialed in. All right. So on this one, I wanted to write. I don't usually write in the vibrato, more just because I'm usually rushing and don't have time, or don't make the time, I should say. You can always make time. But up there, I just put that in there so you could really see literally on the note C on the 13th fret, that wobbly vibrato he puts in there. So the very first thing we get into here is this kind of intro lick where we go 11 of the B string. And there's going to be a lot of stuff where he'll play off of certain themes. He'll definitely play off of that kind of note, that cluster of notes and that kind of position a lot. And I found that it seems when Trey's jamming on this, he's mostly working out of first and second position minor pentatonic. But later on in the jam, he does definitely get a little higher up. And we'll probably explore that a little bit as well. But this first lick again. Then we're going to bend on 13 of E. Now that right there, okay, the 11th fret is one of those kind of slightly major bends that I was talking about. So one thing that you could practice, if you're trying to get the feel of this kind of bluesy vibe, is just doing that. Do it here, like where you find your C's, or maybe here. Or here. Do you guys see how different, or hear how different all of those sound? They're all the same kind of thing. Or, really get to know that kind of vibe all over the fretboard. That's one way to get to know the fretboard. Anyway, back up to 13th fret. Then we're going to do two bends. Oops, I did that wrong. Let me see. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go. I love that lick right there. I always kind of connect things to a chord, and I really see that sort of as the upper structure of an E flat minor chord, which makes sense. That's the relative minor, and we can get into some of that minor vibe when we're doing a blues. So one more time, that first little chunk. And even that little piece, I think that one of the coolest things about that last little piece that I played, if you look where the repeat sign is, that measure that has the repeat sign, is so cool because do you guys see that 16th rest that he puts? There's a cluster of 16th notes. Then there's a 16th rest and that dotted 8th note. Just rhythmically, it makes things so interesting to have just that little breath inside of there. And oftentimes the rest can really make the notes that we play way more impactful. Let me catch up on a comment here. This is an interesting song for Fish because it's a cover. Trey sticks to the song but pushes it further out in the jam. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love these classic ones that feel so fishy, and we think of them as Fish tunes, but they're covers. And this is definitely one that, this is one of them. Roses Are Free is kind of an interesting one. That's one that reminds me of that. Yamar, stuff like that. They just it's kind of like All Along the Watchtower. It's like, yeah, Dylan wrote that, but it's kind of Jimi Hendrix's tune at this point. And I would say this kind of feels like that as well. But yeah, Trey is the master of taking, the bluesy stuff, and then he pushes it, like you said, farther. And let me play that lick one more time, and then because we repeat it anyway, and then I'll talk about sort of after the repeat sign how we close it out. So again, on 13th fret, lots of vibrato, and again vibrato, and then again. Now, here's how we kind of close it out. I'm moving on past that repeat sign. We've got a couple bends. That's a great little measure right there. So we do one full bend. Then we start bend. We bend up and then down to 11. Fret the 13th fret with no bend, and then another bend at the end. And then this next part is a really quick bend. So it's such a stylish lick right there. It's so good. And then, of course, we close it out with and it's just an octave lower than where we started. So let me do that, kind of ending the last three measures from the 13th fret. So my hope was that if you hadn't learned that part, that you can reference this and have it, if you just real quick need to learn this part. So that first, opening bit, look at how many bends are in there. The 13th fret really stands out as having a ton of full bends. The 11th fret, that's the minor third. That's that quarter bend I've been talking about a lot. All the vibrato that happens on the root of the it's on C, just a lot of bending. But the other thing too that's really interesting is he'll leave like these rests inside of the measure, and he lets things breathe, which I think is really important. Let me unshare for a sec. I know in my playing that's something that I'm constantly trying to improve on, is leaving space and leaving some breath. There was this really great interview with Rick Beato and Warren Haynes from I think a couple months ago. I think it was kind of recent, and in this clip, you guys should look it up. It's something like, oh gosh, what's the title of it? Guitarists need to learn these two things, or some kind of typical kind of YouTube title, but it's really good. In it, Warren Haynes is talking about how beneficial he thinks it is for us guitarists to learn phrases from horn players and singers. And I think that's such an interesting point of view, and I think it has so much merit. And if you think about it, the thing that singers and horn players have in common, because I had to think about that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Singers and horn players. Well, of course, the reason is that both of them have to worry about their breathing so much, or not worry about it, but they have to consider their breath where like on the guitar we have to breathe, but it's not like we can't, you know, play a passage if we don't take a breath at that exact second. We can, like, we're not dependent on our breathing in the way that a horn player or a singer is. And I think that the benefit of emulating them is that it would force you into basically breathing. We like being conscious of your breath, and I mean that in terms of your phrasing, so that you don't end up with just like a run-on sentence of playing, but you have, there's a comma in there, there's breath, there's rest, there's a pace to it. And I just thought that was such a wise bit of knowledge to pass on from Warren Haynes, copy singers and horn players. And I'm actually gonna I'm going to kind of encourage you to do that with this tune a little later. So let me see here, catching up on comments. I think that was the Rick Beato Warren Haynes video you were referring to. Yeah, that's it. Rick Beato and Warren Haynes. It's so good. I can't quite remember the title, but it was something like guitarists need to learn these two things, or something like that. But look it up. It's worth it. It's not very long. It's like 10 minutes long. Anyway, okay, I want to share this this next lick with you guys. This one, each one, you know, they're very similar, but they have like a little different thing that I wanted to share. So first, let me just share the example and then go through it. And you know, and keep in mind this tune is just a literal 1-4-5. So it's like C7, F9. He's usually playing a G7 of some sort, maybe a G9. They're all dominant chords. So just think like a 1-4-5 blues. And this next one, I believe this is on the 4 chord. Let me see if my memory is serving me right. So I'm going to go to the second example. I'll play it for you guys so you can hear it, and then I'll show how it goes. That's so good. Let me go full tempo, give it to you in the normal context. I'll play it slower and then show how it goes. In fact, on screen, let me actually, I can put up the tab so you guys can see what you're hearing as well. So good. Okay, let me go slower again, and here we go. So this thing is, let me get rid of the slow downer and go back to close up. Okay, so part of the cool thing here, I can hear a little buzzing. Part of the cool thing here is there, you know, the rest of the band is going to, like, let's say an F9 at this part, and then Trey's bending on this 10th fret. And this lick right here, toward the end of that top line, that's like a really classic kind of bluesy thing. And I just like how throughout the jam in this particular version, and I'm sure in many different versions, Trey kind of plays around with displacing the rhythm of that, which is something I'm going to encourage you to do a little bit as well. So this thing here, I had it starting on the end of the measure, kind of leading into the chord change. So you could think of that as like 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 E and a. Then this end lick is going to go like this. So cool, like especially this end part. I'll kind of work in reverse a little bit, but I want to talk about this end lick going from this bend on the 10th fret that has such a familiar sound to it, and yet he does it a little differently than I've really ever seen anybody do it. So he starts out with this kind of classic motif, and then the next part's kind of typical, going down like that, down the scale. Then he goes to 10th fret of G, then goes up to the high C, and then a lower C. So, and the thing that I think makes that extra cool and interesting to me is when you look at the way he resolves that, it's ending on what you would call the of 2. So we would go 1 E and a 2 E and a. So if I count and play that, 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Anytime you can get yourself to either start a phrase on an E or an you know, those weaker syncopated beats, it's definitely worth it. What's up, Kyle? Oh, Kyle's in the house. So I gotta pause and come back to this in a second. Kyle is such a great guitarist, and he won the Paul Reed Smith last year in I believe it was no, Down with Disease was the challenge that he won and played so beautifully on. And I loved his story about kind of pushing through some doubt, or, you know, really not loving his takes and stuff. Kyle, you should drop your YouTube channel, man, and people go check it out. It's really cool. He kind of shows off the guitar, and so happy for you. He's a great musician. I believe he teaches as well. So shout out to Kyle. Good to see you, man. I'm so happy to see you. Let me get this tab back on here. Okay, cool. So now the other thing, like I'm kind of working a little out of order here, but even just how this thing begins, you look at all the repetitiveness of that first measure. You know, we're playing one note or one bend, but it's just so impactful. It has a lot of movement to it. It like, especially because he syncopates it. The count on that. Again, you would go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and just really interesting ways to mix things up, so we're not always doing the same thing. If we can steal a little page from Trey's book, we can add a little syncopation, add interesting bends, and displace rhythm a little bit. And again, I'm going to show you a methodical way you can practice that and really kind of home in on that skill. And try, you know, if you go to play a bluesy lick, you know, try to challenge yourself to not land or start on a quarter beat. See if you can get into one of those kind of syncopated rhythms, an E and you know, just get in there and mix the rhythm up a little bit. Let's move on. I'm going to keep it moving to the next one here. So actually, I'll keep this up, and here's going to be the next phrase I wanted to share with you guys. What's up, Brian? How's it going? Here we go. Okay, here's the next example. Okay. Okay, now there's going to be a couple things I want to point out about this one. I really love this lick here. But notice again, the 11th fret, there's just so many times where he hits that 11th fret with that quarter bend. The other thing to bring your attention to is if you look here at the, I wish you guys could see where I was pointing. In the second measure, you know, you can see he hits the 11th fret of the B string right at the end of that measure. But the interesting thing is, it really is propelling the next phrase forward. So he's really, like, he's getting into the third measure, but kind of, it's like a little pickup line. And he does the same thing at the end of the next measure. He just keeps things moving forward rhythmically and keeps it really interesting. So let me play it one more time, the audio, and then I will, I'll explain what's going on. And then the other thing, let me play that ending again. Notice how he ends this run. Okay, cool. I'll explain that a little more here. Okay, so starting now on 13th fret. and then it moves down to 8th fret. And he walks up to this A here. Let me do that again. I was kind of getting my bearings here. So from 13. So part of the reason I wanted to include this lick is because I love the way that he's leading into the chord change here. So to put things in context, this part that I am sharing right here is over the 1 chord. So it's over the C chord, and then he's leading into the F chord. But notice that at the very end, he's walking up to the major 3rd of F, and it just makes that chord sing. It really brings out it just strengthens the sound of it because he's playing that major 3rd. And this kind of ties into a concept called voice leading, where, you know, long story short, let me get rid of this for a sec and this. Long story short, you could think of it like this. This is something that I've been working on with students a lot, voice leading, is if you were going to play over this blues, and I hope you go get that jam track from Rip and Playing with the Band. But if you play to it, try to challenge yourself to say, okay, on the C chord, let me try to, just as an exercise, I'm not saying you should do this all the time or anything like that, but try to target the note E against the C chord on the downbeat or toward the downbeat of the measure, meaning beat 1, and then see if you can resolve that measure on the 7th of C, which is a B flat, which will lead you into the 3rd of the next chord, which is an A. That's the major 3rd of F. I feel like I better show that because I just heard myself talk and it felt like word salad. So I hate when that happens. But here's what I mean. If you're playing against the C chord, try to target the major 3rd toward the beginning of the measure, and then try to target the 7th, which the flat 7, I should say, which is a B flat, toward the end of the measure, so that when you go to play the next chord, which is F9 in this case, or F7, you're hitting the major 3rd of that one on the downbeat of the measure, and then see if you can resolve back to the 7th there, and you could go up to the major 3rd, and you could do the same thing again. It's just a way to make your phrasing and the sound of your playing more coherent and really hooked up, and there's a certain kind of logic to it. And I can hear Trey doing that a lot. Like a lot of times he has those bends from the 6 down to the, it'll go from 6 to flat 7 and then back down to the 6, and it creates tension and release, and it's a really simple way to do it. So let me go back here to the tab. And let me see here. I'll just show this whole thing one more time, and then we'll get into some other stuff. I wanted to share this rhythmic displacement exercise with you guys. So again, 13th fret. I love it. I just get a kick out of Trey's playing every single time. It's just so good. Okay, let me pause. I can see a question here. I want to make sure I'm getting with you guys here. Okay, Fishy Fish. Okay, I think I get what you were saying. Would you think about all the chords as dominant chords or Mixolydian? All right. Okay, so that's a cool question. So the short answer is it depends on like at what moment. And I hate to be like sounding like I'm dodging the question or anything, but here, let me say it like this. So on the C chord, there are a couple of things. Now, this is just me. Like, obviously, I can't speak for Trey and what he's thinking. I wish I could, and it'd be so cool to hear exactly what he's thinking or hearing. But like on a C blues, for example, let me go close up, and I'll just kind of talk you through some of the things that I would play around with if I were going to play over this jam track and kind of like practice to it. So when you're playing over the C chord, one thing I would do is, you know, I'm a big advocate for getting to know things in multiple different ways. This is something I was talking to Brendan with earlier on our call, is that, you know, let's take the root note C, which is right here on the 8th fret of the E string. Part of the issue with the guitar, it's a blessing and a curse. This is how I was explaining it earlier, is we really need to know how to build the chord and the scales that we want. Here's the root, but we need to know how to access this side of that root over top of the root and to the right of the root. So here's what I would do is, like, let's say I'm more likely to like kind of approach that from the chord side of things, and I would do a dominant chord. So here's a C7. Let me get all this overdrive off. So again, I'm going root. Oop, that feels a little quiet. So we got root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7. Just get used to maybe 1 octave at first, if that's not a familiar voicing or a fingering for it, I should say. And then the next octave lives right here. And then you can hit your 2nd octave up here. So maybe, you know, in a second I'll put the jam track on, and in fact, let me do it right now. I've got the track pulled up. Let me know if you guys can hear this okay and stuff. Let me see. I'm gonna put it right about there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna put the track on, and I'm just gonna kind of riff around with a C7 on this side of the root. Okay, so here we go. And actually, I gotta pause it because I just explained the C chord, but obviously we have to change chords. But let me explain a little more, and then I'll go back to playing over that. So, and yes, thanks, Maurice. Yes, if you guys could hit the like button, subscribe. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, I totally get it. I watch YouTube, and sometimes I don't subscribe and stuff, but man, it really sure does help us out. Just kind of spreading the word and stuff. So really appreciate that. Thank you, Maurice, for reminding me. He's always reminding me to say that. Anyway, so then take that C7 and then play it with your middle finger right here. So now what you'll experience is, instead of playing that arpeggio where you have 1 note per string and then you have the 7th right here, you're going to have this different layout. And then you could do the next octave. Now I like to change fingers like that. So let me do that again. I can hear my E string is a little flat. Okay. So that's the same as this. And although those two things are the same, technically they're made up of the same notes, and you would call both of them a C7. The fact is they feel way different from each other. Just the feel of it is completely different, which is actually really cool, because then you're going to be inspired to do different things when you go to improvise. Now, the third way I would do that is start with your index finger and do the same thing. So now here's my C7 like this, and then I can do the same thing. Oh, I'm going right into autopilot. That's a lick. That's from like Esther. Oop. That's such a classic. Now that's doing a C9. There it is. But what I'm doing here is just a C7 and then another C7 right there. But see all the different ways you can do the same thing? And then I think one of the things that can slow us down when we're jamming is not having like a lay of the land, so to speak, and then we can get kind of bogged down. So now in terms of would I see that as Mixolydian, I mean, yeah, momentarily, but then like when we go to the F chord, when we go to the 9, F9, then I would switch gears and be thinking more like C Dorian, for example. And the reason for that is because the flat 7 of the 4 chord is actually it's the minor third of the 1 chord. And so we have to compensate, or we don't have to do anything, but you may find that if you play that major third, the E, against that F9 chord, you know, I'm not saying don't play the E against it, but I probably wouldn't hang on that note for too long. It might get pretty ugly, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I guess like I would be thinking more in a chordal way, or seeing things in more of a chordal way. And then in terms of the mode for C, I would lean towards C Mixolydian. So really grabbing things from the key of F in that case. Then when it goes to the 4 chord, I would switch over to C Dorian. So then I'm grabbing the modes and chords from the key of B flat. Now it doesn't have to be that complicated. You can just, you know, say, okay, I'm going to do major pentatonic on the 1 chord and minor pentatonic on the 4 chord. The 5 chord, really, I like both ways. I like major pentatonic against it sometimes and minor pentatonic. I think they both sound really cool. The 4 chord, I really lean toward minor pentatonic. And when I say that, if we're playing a C blues, I mean C major pentatonic and C minor, not like playing F minor pentatonic, for example, on the F chord. So, Fishy Fish, let me know if I answered that well enough. I want to make sure that I actually clear up what you're asking. So one more recap. I'm thinking more in a chordal way, C7, F7, or F9. And I'm always thinking, if it's a dominant chord, I'm always thinking either a 9 chord or a flat 9 as well, if it applies. And then in terms of the modes, C Mixolydian and C Dorian, you've probably heard like the Mixo-Dorian kind of thing, like that kind of vibe is what I would be leaning toward. It's just such a good sound for this. So I'm going to move on, but let me know if that answered your question. And it was a really good one. Okay, now, I shared the few licks, but now I want to share this rhythmic displacement idea, because the idea here is you can take one simple thing, I'm going to use just a pentatonic line, and you can modify it quite a bit and impact the way it sounds and feels right on. Okay, cool. You can really change the feel of it just by moving it in the measure forward or back, you know, in manipulating the rhythm of it without even touching the notes. So that's what I'm going to show right now. Let me go close up. Let me put a little white background, and here we go. Okay. Now this right here, I wrote this as like a C minor pentatonic kind of line, and it's really just descending the minor pentatonic. So I'm going 11th fret. And if I don't know if Jeremy and Morgan are out there listening, we were working on this the other day, and this is a tricky exercise. So if you guys are out there, shout out to you guys. I put them through a little rhythmic torture session in a group session recently. So here's the thing though, when you go to do this exercise, or if you go to do it, and I really encourage you to try this, I would really say to get the most out of it, I would count, you know, really try to count it. So like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and the next measure starts on the E of 1. And I would try starting also with an up with the offbeat ones and a down every other. So basically on the odd measures, I'd start with a down. On the even measures, I'd start with an up. So on this one, I'm going to go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and on the next measure, I'm going to start on the and of 1, and I'll start with a down. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and in the last measure, I'm going to start on the of 4, and I'm going to start with an up. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay, now instead of me talking through and pausing and stuff, let me do it just all in a row so you can hear it. And this is actually kind of challenging. And then what I'm going to do, even though I didn't write it all out this way, Then I'm going to go through the entire measure and show you how you can take this even a couple steps farther so that you then put it on the second beat, and then the E of 2, and then the and of 2, and so on. It'll take me a second, but I think it's worth it. So in fact, let me do this. I'm going to put a metronome on. I've got one queued up right here, and hopefully you guys can hear that. I'm going to put it nice and slow. I'm going to put it on 50 beats per minute, counting 16th notes. So that's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. Now I'll go on 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and now 3 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 2 E and a. So you get the idea. You just keep snaking through the measure and pushing things forward, and it completely changes it. I don't know if it comes across without having a beat there. In fact, you know what I'll do is let me put this. I've got the backing track on, and I just have it looping against the or without the vocals coming in and stuff. This is the actual Alpine 2010 track that Rip made, and I'm going to apply this over the track so just so you can hear some drums against it and you'll get a better sense of it. So hopefully that came across, you know, how you can just shift the feel of things very simply. Like, it doesn't take a lot of notes or a fancy scale. You know, it's just so so easy, or not, I shouldn't say easy. It's so simple to get more out of what we do. It's usually the simple things, but sometimes they're not as easy because we, you know, like we have to count and be comfortable with where we are in the measure and stuff. Let me catch up here. Love the rhythm exercise. My playing's gotten a lot more interesting starting riffs on off beats. Right on, Brian. Not better, but more interesting. Very cool. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's like, it's not a thing where we need to replace what we're doing, but we can really enhance it a lot of times with simple things like I'm talking about here. So the other thing I would encourage you to try, and I'll go close up again in a second, is pick an area of the fretboard. This applies especially if you still feel like you are challenged by certain like areas of the fretboard where it takes you a second to find a note. If you have any blind spots or anything like that, maybe try this. Like, go through and pick a zone. Like, let's go like all the way down to the 3rd fret down here and say, okay, I'm going to figure out how I can play this, play along to it with arpeggios. So like here's a C7. You've got one down here. You can do it with your middle finger. You can do it with your index finger. So you've got all that down there. And then ask yourself, okay, without moving my hand, where are the other 2 chords? And if you look right here, we've got an F7, F7, F7. And then going back here, okay, where's the G? Well, we've got a G7 here, there's a G7 here, there's a G7 here, there's a G7 here, there's one, there's one here we can do. So we have all these things, and that was just in this area. So then I might put the track on and just challenge myself to play around with it over there. Right on. So I would work that zone for a little bit and then say, okay, let me go up here, kind of where I was talking about before. And I would do the same kind of thing. Like, here's this C7 I was talking about before. And then ask yourself, okay, if I base it off of this area, where's the nearest F7? And you might see, oh yeah, I got one right here. And then back to your C. Now the G is a little less obvious, but there's this shape that Trey plays a lot of times, like this. He does it all the time in tons of different songs. And what we can do is use this as like a template to see a G chord that's living in that area. Because remember, I was starting here with my C7, my F7, and then the G, and then you're back to C. And then do it right here. Here's a C7. My 4 chord is right here, F7. Now G is in more of like the C shape. And then if we move with the index, like here's our C7, then we've got an F7 right here, and now our G is this shape with the middle finger. So by practicing it in that methodical approach, you map out not only all the notes of the fretboard or where those chords are, but these different iterations of your triads and your arpeggios and all that stuff. And by the time you get up here, kind of where I was leaving off, you kind of pretty much just start over again, and you're right back where you started. You kind of start filling in the gaps. And then if you combine that with like your pentatonic positions, you really have so much going on to play around with. And you'll never get bored. At least I don't think so. Like, you have so much you can do there, so much to play around with. And of course, the thing about it is, try to start with the simple motif and then build it out from there. Oh, this is what I meant to do. I'm gonna put the track on again, and this will be the last thing I leave you guys with tonight. Unless you guys have any questions or anything, I'll hang out for a minute. But the other thing I was going to say is try doing this. Apply maybe like C minor pentatonic, because that's something you can play over the whole thing. But try thinking of like how Mike is singing, like the rhythm of it. So let me see here. I'm gonna put the track on. Let me go back and let's just listen to his rhythm, and then I'll try to kind of emulate it as it goes. So let me see here. Okay, cool. So I was kind of riffing around with it as it was going, but let me go close up and put the track on. And I'm not like trying to, it's not like an exact science. I'm not like worried about doing it perfectly. I'm just trying to get the vibe of it. So I'm going to put it on and just play around with that, and I'll go through these different zones. See how much breath there is, how much space? Okay, now what I'm going to do in the next round, so let's say I kind of go through that, and it sounds kind of like the intro riff and stuff. So now I'm going to do that, but then in the space, I'll try to leave some space, but then I'm going to kind of answer myself back with some kind of counter rhythm and counterpart. So let's start it over, and I'm just kind of going off of, like what he's singing, a lot of it is like... really simple stuff. And I'll just kind of answer myself back a little bit. Now do it in a different area. Do it in another area. Right on. So, like, to me, like, yeah, okay, that's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, but it's musical. It kind of sings just like he does. And again, just copying a singer, copying a horn player. Let me see here. I'm catching up on some of these the comments. Okay, so Brian's saying, great advice I've gotten before. When in doubt, riff the vocal line. That's so huge. Think back to like what Jerry would do a lot of times. It would be that, like, you would start with the melody and then you jazz it up. Like you build it out from there. It gives you such a solid foundation. And for the audience is really cool because they've been singing along with that before. So it's exciting for the people we're playing for. They have something they can grab onto. And for us, it's kind of cool because we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Take the melody and then just tweak it a little bit. Yeah, like showing, like you're showing can be an awesome jump off point. Yeah, that can be an awesome starting point, and really, like, it can be just about all you need. You just kind of tweak it a little bit and away you go. So right on. As usual, I'm going to hang out for a minute with you guys if you guys have any questions or anything, but there's a few people hanging out. I really appreciate you guys, as always, hanging with me on a Monday. Jeremy, what's up, man? Jeremy, I don't know if you just hopped on, man. I was telling them I put you through the torture test with the rhythm stuff. Jeremy's been killing it with his rhythm stuff. We're doing a lot of like triplet stuff, and like you're just really digging into almost like being drummers. I think that us guitarists could get a lot out of like studying like snare rudiments and like getting a drum pad and like doing stuff like that. I'm such an advocate for that kind of stuff. Right on. Dead Flower Blues. Right on. Yeah, I'm doing quite well. Looking forward to 4th of July, hanging with some family. Hope you guys are, get some time off, get to hang with the family, get to hear some good music, see some fish. Yeah, hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, I'll hang out for another minute. Yeah, appreciate you guys. I'm blanking on what's next. In fact, I might kind of pivot next week and do like a general topic, like a music theory topic. I'm going to be out of town, so I might switch it up and just do something a little different instead of a jam breakdown. So, man, I sure would appreciate it if you guys would leave a comment on something you'd like to hear more about. Dog Stole Things would be another good blues. Yeah, right on. Yeah. Any of the bluesy ones, we can get so much from. Elevated Improve. I like that. I like that, man. You're the man, Jeremy. Jeremy shows up like he's there like every session, man. And by the way, go check out Jeremy's band Free, Phree. They're out of kind of the Indianapolis area. I hope I'm saying the right zone. And great band, great people. Yeah. Also, if you guys are in a band, whether it's original, a cover band, doesn't have to be a Fish cover band or whatever. I love checking out your guys' band. So please, leave a link to your band's YouTube and stuff. I'm a big advocate for that. In fact, while I'm talking about it, here's a band I just came across recently. I recently met this really great guitarist named Quinn Tuff. He does a YouTube and he does an Instagram. He's doing a great job teaching a lot of Dead stuff. He does some Fish stuff, Allman Brothers. At any rate, he has a band called Memo. I think the band's called Memo Band, Memo. Go check them out. They put a tune out. I'm forgetting the name of the track, but it's so good. It's really, really good. So shout out to Quinn. He's got some good original music. Send your original music. I love listening to your guys' stuff. Okay, would love some ideas how to make single chord vamps sound like they're moving rather than same tonal center for stream topic. Okay, so that's definitely going to happen because Rip, who runs Playing with a Band, he wants the same thing, and I agree. That's such an important topic. Is kind of like the Bob Weir thing. Like how do we keep ourselves interested when we're just vamping over like one chord? Well, the real, I think the truth of it is it's never just one thing. You can turn one chord. I have this idea that I share with students called chordal ambiguity, and it's where you look at a chord not as one thing, but from the very beginning of the chord, it's many options you have available to you. So I'll definitely talk about that. Brian's asking for anything on chord tones. Playing to the changes would be great. General lesson from me. Okay, right on. Well, maybe, I've been sharing this some things on voice leading from this book I'm studying and sharing with the guys I'm working with called Connecting Chords with Linear Harmony. And it's got some really great exercises in it. Like what I really like, and I've been saying this to everybody, is it demystifies improvisation, because it can feel like this, like we're chasing a shadow. Like what is it? It's this magical thing, but it's really these very practical things that are, if you have a methodical approach, it can make it a lot easier. Sand would be a good one. Okay, so I've got a sand jam track I made a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. I had an idea for a lesson, and then sometimes I kind of second guess myself and I bail on the idea. So I've got one ready to go. I got sand would be a really good one to do for that because it's so vampy. So more on that. Right on. Yes, Quinn is a great teacher. If that's what you're talking about, Fishy Fish, he is. Shout out. Also, Colin Ward is a great guy. I did a recording with him. We're gonna do like a podcast thing where we just talk music together. And he's got a channel called Colin Ward Music. He does a lot of Fish stuff. And so be on the lookout for that. I don't know whose channel it's going to be on, but I'm doing a thing with him. And then some other fun collaborations in the works. So, yeah, we got to show love to people that are sharing this music. It needs to be shared. So the more the merrier. Any rate, all right, guys, I think we're good here, unless anybody hops in at the last minute that needs anything. I hope you guys, could take some of these things and get something out of it and apply it to your own playing, whether it be some of the displacement or those bends, or you're just stealing a little lick from Trey and trying to, like, that's the thing. Oh, here's one thing I want to leave you guys with. That classic, like I call it the Stevie Ray Vaughan, like this kind of, that sort of thing. Like that's a really good one to take as a candidate for rhythmic displacement. So like start that on one, like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and 3 and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Do you see how different those all were? So just want to leave that last little nugget to play around with. Just take a classic motif, like a cliche if you want to call it that, and then make it your own. You definitely can. Right on. Okay. Colin's channel is great, but he goes so fast. He's so knowledgeable. He knows so much. He's really passionate. He's a great guy. I'll have to relay the message. Slow down, Colin. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. As always, I truly do appreciate it. It's wild that you guys are out there, wherever you are, hanging with me. I truly am grateful. It's really fun to share this music, and I hope you got something out of it. So enjoy the rest of the week, guys. Happy 4th of July. I hope you get out there and get to barbecue, hang with the fam. You know, like I said, see some music, support local music, write some music. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next week. Maybe we'll talk about vamping and maybe we'll talk about voice leading. Maybe we'll do that. We'll settle on that, get some chord work in. And I look forward to it. See you guys.